Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to this afternoon's session. My name is Ruth Benson. I'm the Employer Liaison Officer for NILGOSC. Just to let you know, I'm going to be talking for about a half an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I pass over to my colleague Leah, who will do a bit of a demonstration. Because we have so many attendees today, can I please ask that you save any questions either for the end, or if you type any questions that you may have into the chat, and then I'll be able to answer them towards the end of this session. Everybody should all be muted, but I will remute everybody from time to time just to cut down on any background feedback. But this session should take about an hour this afternoon, and the things that we're going to be looking at are, first and foremost, what is a care pension and what options you have in retirement. Then we'll look at the other benefits that come along as being part of a member of the scheme. We'll look at how much this costs you and what options you have with regards to how much you're paying in. And then shortly after that is where I'm going to pass over to Leah for the demonstration of my NILGOSC Pension Online. This is where you get to really get a feel for your own retirement planning. So what is a pension with the local government pension scheme in Northern Ireland? We are a defined benefit scheme. You may be aware of the likes of a personal pension, where it's a DC scheme, where you determine how much contributions you want to put into the scheme. We're slightly different in that we are a defined benefit scheme. So the benefits that we are going to pay you are set out in regulations. We are what's called a career average revalued earnings scheme. Sometimes it's referred to a care scheme or a career average scheme for short. We used to be what was known a final salary pension scheme, but back in 2015, all public sector pensions had to move from final salary benefits to career average. The pension, once it comes into payment, it is payable for life. So however long you live in retirement is how long we will pay that pension to you. And of course, it's index linked, meaning your pension will keep up pace with inflation. With a career average scheme, it's really important that every year counts. It's a career average scheme so that whenever your benefits do come into payment in the future, the amount that is paid to you is based on the average of all your pays over the years while you were contributing to the scheme. And this slide here looks at an example of 5 years worth of contributions into a career average scheme. You'll see there in year one, the opening balance that everybody starts off with whenever they join the scheme is 0. You've got nothing in your opening balance. Then your employer advises us of your pay each year at the end of March. So we'll take the pay that you've built up in that first year, we'll divide it by the accrual rate, which in our scheme is 49, and that's how much pension savings that get banked into your pension pot. And it means then at the end of year one, in this example, the closing balance is £479 worth of annual pension. Year two, follows on similarly with year 3, 4 and 5. You'll see there that the pay has fluctuated from, I think the highest there in year 2 was 29,500, and it's sort of varied over the years. If you earn it in a given year, we will bank the credit for it at the end of each scheme year. We are a revalued earnings scheme, and that revaluation applies then to the opening balance at each year. Most recently, in April just past, we had an increase of 10.1%. Coming this future April, the increase looks like it's going to be 6.7%, so not quite as high as the increase that we had last year, but this does vary over the years, just in line with CPI. It means then in this example at the end of year 5 there is a closing balance of £2,982.98, and that's annual pension that we will pay out every year once this member has retired. Once this member does reach retirement, they will have a couple of options. whenever anybody retires in the scheme, you have you'll get issued with your claim forms, and you'll have a number of options as to how you will take your benefits when you retire. There's what we refer to as the standard benefits. This is the point where you start off with the maximum amount of pension. So in those 5 years of that care pot that we just saw, that leaves an annual pension of £2,982 and some pence. When you come to retire, you also have the option whereby you can give up some of your annual pension to increase a tax-free lump sum. This works on a ratio of 1 to 12. So for every £1 of your annual pension that you give up, it buys you £12 in your tax-free lump sum. There's a maximum that HMRC will permit you to take as tax-free cash, and that is worked out as 25% of your total pension fund value. In the example slide that we saw this morning with the standard pension of £2,982, if this member wanted to elect the maximum tax-free cash option, it would reduce their annual pension down from just shy of £3,000 to just shy of £2,000. The annual pension would be reduced to 1917 and some pence, but it would increase that tax-free lump sum up to £12,784 and some pence. You don't have to go for the maximum tax-free cash when you come to retirement. You will always have the option to go somewhere in between. I do have to point out that the value of lump sum may not replace the value of pension given up. If we had a crystal ball and we knew how long we were going to live in retirement, we would know if 12 to 1 was a good deal or not. Unfortunately, we don't have that crystal ball, so you really just have to weigh it up for your own personal circumstances, bearing in mind that you have to be able to live off that reduced annual pension. The tax-free lump sum can look attractive, but it is a one-off payment. Once it's spent, it's spent. Whereas your annual pension is payable for the rest of your life, however long that may be in retirement. But these are options that everybody has, and you should get to thinking what you plan to do for your own retirement in the future. Pension payable. In the career average scheme, your normal pension age is linked to your state pension age. So we all have individual state pension ages. Mine personally is 68, but do keep an eye on that. Your normal pension age is the point in time that we will pay your pension out without reductions. You can go early if you wish. The earliest anybody in a UK pension scheme can retire is currently 55. However, that is set to increase to 57 from April 2028, so do be mindful. If you wish to retire early, we will reduce your pension accordingly. Instead of viewing it as losing some of your pension, it is in fact you're getting your pension paid for a longer period of time. Apologies there, I'm just pressing mute. Similarly, if you want to continue working on beyond your state pension age, we will then potentially be paying your pension out over a potentially shorter period of time, in which case we'll apply actuarial increases. Bottom line is get online to your online account and run your own retirement quotations so you can find out what sort of reductions or increases would apply to your benefits. The scheme does provide so much more than just a pension for you. First and foremost, it offers redundancy protection. If your employer makes you redundant or you accept the termination of your contract due to grounds of business efficiency, if you're 55 or over at the point in time that happens, we will pay your pension out at that point in time. Most importantly, we won't apply the early retirement reductions in the event of a redundancy or efficiency retirement. Instead, we will bill your employer for the strain on the fund for paying that pension out for a longer period of time. Whether it's voluntary redundancy or compulsory redundancy won't make a difference as far as your pension's paid in both circumstances. This is not a decision that your employer has to make. This is a protection that's in the regulations. If you're made redundant and you're 55 or over, whether it's voluntary or compulsory redundancy, your benefits will be paid out without reduction at that point in time. There is also ill health protection. Now, there is no minimum age requirement for ill health protection. The only requirement is that you'll have been in the scheme for 2 years at the point in time you're applying for ill health. And as long as you're permanently incapable of carrying out the duties of your job from now until your state pension age, then you will be eligible for an ill health pension. Our ill health pensions work on a 2-tier system. Tier 1 is really for the most severe types of illnesses, really when you're never going to work again. And if you are assessed by one of our doctors and confirm that you have a Tier 1 pension, we will pay out the pension that you have built up to that point in time. Plus, we will add on an enhancement, and that enhancement is worth 100% of the future pension that you would have built up if you'd remained working in the scheme right up until your state pension age. With a Tier 2, you still have to be permanently incapable of carrying out the duties of your job from now until state pension age, but there is a possibility that maybe at some point down the line you will be capable of undertaking gainful employment. If you get a Tier 2 ill health, we'll still pay out your pension. We still won't reduce it. We'll still add on an enhancement. But this time in a Tier 2, the enhancement is worth 1/4 of the future pension that you would have built up if you remained working till your state pension age. Another benefit that you get when you're contributing to the scheme is tax relief. Whenever you contribute to any UK pension scheme, you will benefit from tax relief. Now, that's in relation to your normal contributions, but also if you decide to pay any additional contributions, you'll also benefit from tax relief there too. The scheme also covers provides 2 elements of death benefits. First and foremost, we have life cover. In the event of your death as an active member, we will pay out a one-off lump sum to your loved ones. And that lump sum, while you're an active member, is worth 3 times your pay over the year. That is payable free of inheritance tax, so there's no tax paid on a lump sum in the event of your death. Over and above the death grant, if you leave behind any eligible survivors, whenever you die, we will also pay a survivor's pension to them after you have died. So if you leave behind a spouse, a cohabiting partner, or you're married to somebody, they will be eligible to receive a survivor's pension for the rest of their life after you have died. There are also children's pensions available to any eligible children you leave behind at the point in time you die. So how much does all this cost? Employee contributions are set. There are a number of different rates. We have 6 different bands that you could fall into, and depending on how much you earn, that will determine what contribution rate you're going to pay. So for example, if you're paid £22,000 a year, you'll fall into band 2 and you'll pay 5.8% contributions. If you're part-time, it's your part-time earnings that will go into determining what contribution rate that you pay. These contribution rates are set out in the regulations, but the pensionable pay ranges will increase each April in line with inflation. Then your employer will also pay. Most of our employers pay 19%, but some individual employers have different contribution rates just depending on their admission agreements. So your earnings will determine how much you're going to pay into the scheme. But you do have some flexibility as to how much you can pay in. There are 2 ways that you can pay more into the scheme. The first one is an APC for short, or an additional pension contract. And the second way is an additional voluntary contribution, so an AVC, and I'll cover those in the next slide. There is one option whereby you can choose to pay less into the scheme, and that's known as the 50/50 section. So if we look first at the additional pension contributions, or the APC, if you want to pay APCs, you can choose to buy additional pension. So it's exactly the same scheme pension that you're building up between you and your employer. You can just choose to buy extra. Up to a maximum, it's currently sitting at just over £8,000 that you can purchase as additional pension. With your additional contributions, the money gets paid to NILGOSC, and we will award you with a set amount of pension that you have determined. You will know upfront how much you're buying. You can decide to purchase an extra £1,000 or an extra £2,000, but you know upfront how much you're getting, and that amount is index linked, so it will rise each year in line with inflation to make sure that your investment doesn't become devalued over time. You'll get your tax relief on the additional contributions, and how much it costs is going to be based on your age at the start of the contract and how long you wish to pay the contract over. You can either do it via a lump sum or you can do it through regular contributions through your payroll. The regulations do permit your employer to share the cost of buying any extra pension. However, in this current climate, not very many of our employers have extra cash. So usually we only would see an employer contributing towards extra pension in the event of a redundancy or something like that. So 9 times out of 10, if you're buying any extra pension, it's going to be at full cost to yourself. There is a link in your slides to our calculators where you can go and find out how much it would cost you to purchase additional pension. And when we get to the demo, I'll be able to show you where that calculator is. The next type of paying extra is an AVC. This is different to the APC because the APC, the extra money comes to NILGOSC and you know upfront how much you're buying, and it's index linked. With the AVC, the extra contributions don't come to NILGOSC, they instead go to the Prudential, who is our in-house AVC provider. When it comes to paying into the AVC scheme, you have to make some choices in relation to investment options. You can choose how risky or not an investment you want to choose with your extra contributions. You'll still get your tax relief, but the drawback with an AVC is the value of your fund can go down as well as up, depending on the investment choices you have chosen. So with an APC, your contributions come to NILGOSC and you know upfront how much you're getting. The drawback is that it can work out quite expensive because you're not sharing the cost with your employer. AVCs are different in that the money goes to the Prudential, but you have much more control over how much you pay in. You can decide to stop it, start it, you could decide to increase it, decrease it. So it's much more flexible, but you don't have control over how much you're going to get out at the end of the day. Depending on your investment choices, the value can go down as well as up. Again, there's a link here if you would like to see more on AVCs, and I'll show you whenever we get to the demo part where that is on our website. Moving on then to the 50/50 section. This is where you can choose to pay less if you so wish. It was originally brought into the scheme as an alternative to opting out. We were finding maybe somebody had a wedding they were saving up for, or they were looking to buy their first house, something like that. We were finding that people were opting out of the scheme to try to really save every penny they possibly could have. The drawback with opting out of the scheme is that you lose your redundancy protection, your ill health protection, your survivor's benefits. There's so much that you're giving up whenever you opt out of the scheme. So the 50/50 section was designed as an alternative to opting out. With the 50/50 section, you can elect to join it at any time. You decide, I'm going to pay half the amount of contributions, and instead you get half the amount of pension built up. When you're in the 50/50 section, it is important to note that you still get the same level of life cover and ill health enhancement that you would if you were in the main section. And the reason why we can offer those benefits in full is because it's only your contributions that are halved. Your employer is still paying their full 19%. It is designed to be a short-term option. The last thing we want is somebody in their 20s opting into the 50/50 section and then turning around in a few decades' time wondering where the rest of their pension is. So in line with your employer's automatic enrolment date, every 3 years, if anybody is in the 50/50 section, you will automatically be moved back into the main section. So that's sort of like a fail-safe. You can't opt into the 50/50 section and just forget about it. You will get moved back into the main section once your employer hits your re-enrollment date. Doesn't mean you have to stay there. If you want to operate permanently in the 50/50 section, you can do this, but the onus is on you to fill in another form every 3 years, just so that you can be sure that you're aware of what you're giving up whenever you're opting into the 50/50 section. I do have to point out that the value of your pension will not build up as quickly while you're in the 50/50 section. It's only going to build up at half the rate. So you have options about paying more or paying less that you can decide to make a decision on at any point while you're an active member, but there are some important choices that do have a time limit. First and foremost, if you want to investigate a transfer in, you have to do this in your first year of joining. So if you've recently joined the scheme and you would like to investigate a transfer, there's an LGS 8 form that you can download or you can access from your online account. You can fill that in and get that through to us, and that will instigate the transfer quotation. We always recommend that you get a quotation, you find out what the benefits would be if you went ahead with your transfer, but you don't have to elect for a transfer if you don't wish. But it's always good to get the quotation and find out whether it's in your interests to do so. Similarly, if you have another NILGOSC pension, you have an option to combine or aggregate your 2 NILGOSC pension records. But again, you can only do that in your first year of joining. Once we have you registered on our system, we will follow that up with a combi option and give you your option to aggregate any records that you may have with us. So if you get an aggregation letter from us, make sure you fill that form in and get that back to us in your first year of joining. I've also put in here about McCloud protections. This is to do with any other public sector pension scheme membership that you may have. If you do have McCloud protections, make sure you fill in that LGS 10 and get that sent through to us. There isn't a time limit on this, but we do just recommend you get that form through to us sooner rather than later, so as we can make sure we have our records up to date. So if you do have any membership of any other public sector pension schemes that might entitle you to a McCloud protection, get on and get your LGS 10 filled in and sent through to us. Now, at this point, I am going to step away from the slides for a moment, and I am just going to share my screen. So if you bear with me a moment, hopefully that you can all see my screen. This is the NILGOSC website. If you haven't been on our website, we do recommend you get online. There's some useful information on here. But what I would like to draw your attention to just while we're here, in the more options, there's a drop down. We have a search function here, which is really quite good. If you're looking for your LGS 8 or your LGS 10, you can just pop that into the search option and it will bring you up all the hits that you may need. But what I want to show you first and foremost is in the members section. Oh, excuse me, I'll just accept cookies. In the member section over here, we have a sub-menu for boosting your pension. Now, this is where you can go to find out more information about paying more into the scheme. We have the first 2 ways, APCs. This is where you're buying extra scheme pension. So you know upfront how much you're getting, and it is index linked, but can work out quite expensive. The younger you are when you start this, the more financially efficient it works out to be. But if you are thinking of buying extra scheme pension, have a wee nosy on our website, look through the FAQs, and then if you want to go on, the calculator is down at the very bottom of this screen in the useful links. This is where it will take you to the additional pension calculator. You can either buy extra pension or you can buy lost pension. If you're buying lost pension, this is to do with maybe you've had authorised unpaid leave of more than 30 days. Maybe you've had a career break or something like that. Whenever you return from that authorised unpaid leave, you have 30 days to choose to cover that lost pension. And if you elect to cover that lost pension in 30 days, your employer must pay 2/3 of the cost. Whereas if you're just buying extra pension, although your employer may contribute to the cost, chances are you're going to be funding it entirely yourself. So you will end up with 2 different costs depending which calculator you go into. So just make sure you know whether you're buying extra or buying lost. The other thing I wanted to show you on our Boosting Your Pension was the AVCs. Now, with AVCs, there's an awful lot of information that you have to consider. And on here, there's a helpful wee video that we have that sort of sums up how this will impact you. There's also more questions and things that may answer any questions that you have. But down here in the useful links, I just wanted to draw your attention. We've got a couple of links here. One of them is the fund guide. Now, this is where you can log on and you can see the different fund options that you have. They're broken down into different levels of risk, so from the highest risk right down to minimal risk. And this link down below it is the performance guide. This will actually show you how each of those funds have performed in the last year. So have we read through those books so as you know what you're doing whenever it comes to your investment options. And then if you wish to proceed with commencing an AVC, you click on this section. This will then take you to the Prudential's website, and this is where you can go down and put in your employment details. To select your scheme, you'll be looking for the Northern Ireland Local Government Officers Superannuation Committee. So if we go in, you'll be looking for this one, Northern Ireland Local Government Pension Scheme. So that's us. That was what I wanted to show you. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Leah, who's going to take you through a demonstration of your online account.
Okay, so we're going to start from the NILGOSC website homepage, which Ruth just showed you there, and she showed you obviously the boosting your contribution section of it. What I'm going to be showing you first of all is the My NILGOSC Pension Online section of the website, and I'll show you how to get to that. And then basically we're just going to go through how to register for My NILGOSC Pension Online if you haven't done so already, and then if you have registered and you've already logged into it before, how to use your login information to do that to go on to the actual service. And I will be using a demo account that we've prepared for training purposes, just a random demo account with no active member information in it, just to show you all the different sections of My NILGOSC Pension Online. So first of all, from the NILGOSC homepage, whenever you go onto that, I will just go into the members section here. And then from there, I'm going to go into joining. Now, when I scroll down here in this section, under that section there, you're going to see My NILGOSC Pension Online. When you click on that option, you're going to be brought to the My NILGOSC Pension Online kind of information page on our website. When you scroll down, it'll give you a bit of information about using My NILGOSC Pension Online and what it is, and different things that you can do on My NILGOSC Pension Online. Now, there are a lot of things to do on it. You'll see that whenever I log into the demo account today, there are a few things that I will maybe skim over a wee bit that won't be as applicable to you, since a lot of you are newer members rather than members who've been in the scheme for a long time and are possibly approaching retirement. One big function on the screen here is registering for My NILGOSC Pension Online. So again, if you haven't registered for it before, this is the section you'd be looking at for doing that. And we would recommend that you do register for it as soon as you can. The reason being, and you'll see a lot of the useful kind of tools that you have on the My NILGOSC Pension Online server. It's a great way to kind of keep on top of your pension details and keep in touch with us about anything we need to let you know about your pension as well. So if you're registering for the first time, there are 2 different ways to do this. So either you have an activation key from us already, or you don't have an activation key and you need to request that. If you do not have an activation key, you're clicking on Request an Activation Key here, and whenever you do that, you'll be brought to this page here. This will open up for you, and this is how you activate your My NILGOSC Pension Online account. So here it'll just ask you to put in your surname, your national insurance number, your date of birth, and if you do have an activation key already. Sorry, if you have an activation key from us already, which for a lot of you, your activation key will be on your member your kind of welcome to the scheme member letter that we sent out to you in the post. If you have that handy and you only got it very recently, you can use the activation key that's on that letter. The activation key will usually look like a stream of letters and numbers, just and that is the activation key that if you have it, you'd be putting into there, along with your surname, your national insurance number, and your date of birth. And when you click continue, you'll then be asked to register. You'll be invited to register and put in your sign-up details for My NILGOSC Pension Online. If you've received the membership letter before and it's quite a while since you've received that from us, then the activation key, the odds are that that has actually expired at this point. If so, you'll need a new activation key, okay? Where you would go for that one then is request an activation key. So you click on this section here to request an activation key, and then that will bring you to this sign up page here. Okay, so to request an activation key, you complete the form below. Very similar to the other page here that you're brought to, but instead you don't have an activation key. So you're putting in your surname, your national insurance number, your date of birth, and your email address. We'll use that email address to basically send you an email with an activation key or an activation key link attached to it. One thing to note, if we already have your email address on our system, you will get an instant email containing an activation link. You click on that link and then you're brought to the registration page. If we don't already have your email address stored, whatever email address you put in here to request your activation key, we just do a bit of extra checking in the background, because basically just to be extra secure, if we don't have that email address stored for you already on our system, we want to just make sure that it is you requesting an activation key and not somebody else trying to get into your account or set an account up on your behalf. So it might be the next day, if we don't have that email address you've put in on that screen already stored in our system, it might be the next day that you get the email from us with the activation link. It should be within the day, or a day or two, I suppose, at max. If no email does come through, check your junk folder first of all in the first instance, because sometimes it goes through to there. If you still have no email, it could be that the email you've given us maybe doesn't match an email we already have on file. So if we were given an email for you before, and then the email you've put in here to register and get an activation key through from us is not the same one, then we will again just do some extra checks in the background to make sure it is genuinely you. After some extra checks on our end, you should receive the email. It might just be, as I say, the next day. Try not to just keep clicking the sign up button here if you're not getting the email, because it could be that it's either going to your junk email or we're doing some extra checks and it's due to come to you the next day possibly. And the more times you click this, the more emails you'll get from us with new activation keys in it, and they're randomized each time, so you could end up with quite a lot of them in your junk folder and you could be using the wrong one to try to register. Okay, so just click the sign up button once. If you know it's been a couple of days and you can't find it in your junk folder and you don't know where the link has gone, give us a wee call and we will see what's happened, and we can always sort you over the phone if we need to. Okay. So that is where you go if you haven't registered before. So again, you're just going to that members joining area, the My NILGOSC Pension Online section, scrolling down, and if you have your activation key already, you are activating your account there, and that'll bring up that activate your account screen there and ask you to enter your activation key along with your information. You'll be brought through to the register screen then. If you don't have an activation key already, you're requesting an activation key, it'll bring you through to this sign up screen, and then you'll be asked for your surname, national insurance number, date of birth, and email address, and we will send you the activation key via your email. Okay. So if you already have your activation key, you are going into that screen there, you're putting in your activation key there. When you click continue, it'll bring you to a register screen. It'll ask you to basically register a couple of details. So it'll ask you to create a username, create a password, and create a couple of security questions and answers. Each time you log in, then you will be asked for your username, your password that you set up, and you'll be asked for the answer to one of those security questions you set up. I think it's 2 security questions it asks you for. So it'll always be those 2 security questions. So as long as you remember the answer to both of those, it'll ask you for one or the other each time you log in. It's just a wee bit of extra protection to make sure nobody else can log in your place. I'll show you where you go if you have already already registered or signed up to My NILGOSC Pension Online. Where you want to go then is up the top right corner of the screen here, and just the sign in button there you'd be pressing. Okay, when you click that sign in button there, I just have it open here. Okay, so when you click sign in, you'll be brought to the sign in page here for My NILGOSC Pension Online. It'll ask you to enter your username and your password, the ones that you set up whenever you registered. And whenever you click login, depending on whether that information is correct, it'll ask you for one of those 2 security questions and the answer that goes with that. And then whenever you go from there and continue, you should be brought to your home page. Of course, if you have any issues logging into it with the information that you've set up before, please do pick up the phone and give us a call, and one of our admin team can hopefully help you over the phone. Okay. As I said, for today's session, we are just going to use a dummy account. So this is a demo account that we've set up just for training purposes. Whenever you log in for the first time, or any time really, whenever you log in, you're going to see this screen here. Okay, so this is kind of like your dashboard screen, your home screen of My NILGOSC Pension Online. So when you log in, you'll see your initials and your name up here. You're going to see your name up here as well. You're going to see the scheme you're in, which is NILGOSC, of course. You're going to see your member reference, which we assign you whenever we create a new membership record for you. And you're going to see your status, so your status within the scheme. So this man here is Mr. Demo, and he is active in the scheme. So he's an active contributing member to the scheme. You can see down here all the different functions that you have. There's a lot of different places to go on this site, so it is recommended that you register and then log in for the first time and just have a wee play around with the system. Worth mentioning that, as Ruth always points out, which I think is always very good to remember, you can't really break anything on the system. So we would recommend that you go in and have a good look through all the different tiles and all the different functions. You know, you can run calculations for yourself, which I'll come across now in a few minutes. You can change some membership details for yourself, or some personal details for yourself rather. Nothing can be broken, and anything that you change that you want to change back, you can do that yourself. Okay, if you change it in the first instance, you can change it again. So don't worry too much about being afraid to go into any of the tiles or any of the functions. Okay. First thing I will show you is from the homepage is just the Your Details tile. So just going into the first one here. So this will give your personal information details that we've gotten through from your employer whenever we were told that you want to join the scheme. So this is your personal information details up the top here. You will also have your contact details down the bottom here. You'll notice there is an edit button for your contact details, but not for your personal information. This information up the top here can only be changed if we are contacted by you or your employer directly. These contact details down the bottom here have an edit button under them because you can actually do those yourself. Okay, so if you click edit into there, you can update your home address, your postcode, and your phone number, email address, and communication preference. I will look at this specifically for you just in case any of you specifically want to be kept informed by post. As a scheme, NILGOSC, whenever you are set up as a member, we default your communication preference to electronic. So we will just assume until we're told specifically by you that you wish to be kept informed electronically, which means that we will keep you informed by email or via My NILGOSC Pension Online. So any of your annual benefit statements, things like that, we will always be putting on My NILGOSC Pension Online if your communication preference is defaulted to electronic. If you do want to get a hard copy of things from us, such as your annual benefit statement each year, then you just click that drop down arrow there and just click please keep me informed by post. Once you click submit there, anything that you've changed here will be saved on the system. Okay, and that means that whenever we come every year, say to do your annual benefit statement, we will see that you are somebody who wants to be kept informed by post, so we will post a paper copy out to you rather than putting it on your My NILGOSC Pension Online account for you. All right. That's all you can really do on that tile there. Make sure your details are kept up to date as much as possible. So again, if your address or phone number or email address changes at all, try to remember to go on there and edit them for us so that we have up-to-date information. In terms of your membership details, the next tile, very quickly, not too much to look at on here. It'll give you some of your scheme details, so what you are contributing to the scheme. So Ruth went through how your pension is built up and how you kind of pay for your membership in the scheme, I suppose. This is your basic contribution rate. So this member, Mr. Demo, is paying 5.8% of his pension will pay each month into the pension scheme. His normal pension date is going to be shown here. So his normal pension date is the 31st of the 12th, 2031. So he's a bit to go yet. So you will see your normal pension date there. The date he joined the scheme back in 2011 is listed here. Date left scheme is going to be blank for Mr. Demo because he's an active member. He hasn't left just yet. Latest employment details is going to be housed here. It's going to show the most recent information we have for you from your employer. Okay, so it's going to show whether you're full or part-time working and your hours, what rate of hours you're working, whether you're full-time or if you're part-time, it'll give you your part-time information out of the full-time equivalent hours there, and your start date with that employer it'll give us too. Any service details are down the bottom here. So this you may not have gotten around to looking at any transfers, a transfer in or anything like that. Mr. Demo has transferred in some service from a previous pension scheme into NILGOSC, and it has been added on to his service, his membership in NILGOSC. His service has been added on there, so we have that information showing there. For yourselves, if you haven't transferred any other pension scheme membership into NILGOSC yet, that'll just be blank. That's a section there. Mr. Demo has had a service break before, and that's been logged on our system, so that is going to show up there as well. So any service breaks you have, it'll be kept as a history in that section too. Going back to the home page, the next thing I'll look at is the pension benefits section. This is where you will be looking at running calculations for yourself. So any benefit calculators are housed within this section, the pension benefits section. If I go on to benefit calculators, there are quite a few of them there. The main one I want to really focus on for you guys is the voluntary retirement calculator. That's the one that you'll probably be using the most. There's also a redundancy/efficiency retirement calculator. As Ruth mentioned, if you're over the age of 55, if you're 55 or over, and you are made redundant, whether it's voluntary or compulsory, then you are entitled to get all of your pension benefits without any reductions paid or without any reductions taken from you. So you can use that redundancy/efficiency calculator to calculate that, to run some calculations for redundancy. There's deferred benefits, which is just if you leave the scheme and you defer your member benefits, what you can expect to get from that at the point of retirement. And then there's the death and service calculator, which I'll go through very quickly with you as well. But as I say, the main one you're going to be using is voluntary retirement. So when I click onto that, it can take a wee minute to load. Just note that if you're noticing it's taking maybe 10, 20 seconds to load, it's usually just because whenever it's doing that load and bringing us into this screen, it is actually communicating with our system and getting your information and your figures and dates in here, which I'll show you now. So whenever you scroll down, there's a helpful little kind of tutorial here and a YouTube video for voluntary retirement calculator that you can click on and go through that. So it'll give you some examples and give you some guidance on what to fill in and what you're actually looking at on this screen. When we look at the voluntary retirement pension values, so you'll see your annual pension here. This is usually going to be auto-filled with your normal pension date. So in Mr. Demo's case, it's going to be 31st of the 12th, 2031. This is the date that he's going to be able to retire without any reductions to his pension. It'll give you your annual survivor's pension, and it'll give you your projected salary to retirement as well. The lump sum section here is usually going to automatically be blank if you don't have pre-1st of April 2009 scheme membership. So for a lot of you, that's not going to count, and you probably won't have any automatic lump sum there. Mr. Demo's the same, so he has 0 there. When we go down the screen, it's going to show you your conversion options. So as Ruth mentioned in her presentation there, if again you weren't a member of the scheme before 1st of April 2009, you wouldn't be entitled to an automatic lump sum. Even if that's the case, you can choose to sacrifice some of your annual pension figure for a part of a lump sum, and you can take the maximum or you can take the minimum. These sliders are quite helpful if you're trying to run quotes for yourself online to see what you could get at retirement in terms of a pension or lump sum. If you are not entitled to a lump sum and it's set to 0, you can use this slider here to basically take some of or sacrifice some of your annual pension figure there to see how much of a lump sum you could get whilst also still having an annual pension figure there. Okay, so if I want, say for example, Mr. Demo is going to retire and he knows he wants a bit of a lump sum to pay off the rest of his mortgage, say, and he knows he needs about 10,000 to do that. So he might look at, right, if I was to take a lump sum of 10,000 and a bit whenever I retire, how much annual pension would I be giving up and how much would I be left with? So he puts the slider up to about 10 grand odd, and this is the amount of annual pension that he's left with. Okay, so sliders are quite handy. You can just move them up and down. You can see what the maximum will be. If he's taking the maximum lump sum, he's getting a very big figure there. But as Ruth said, once that's spent, that's all spent. The annual pension, he'll still need to know that he's able to live on that for the rest of his life after he retires. Now, down here, underneath those sliders, you'll see the selected date. So whenever you want to run a quote for retirement for yourself, this is already going to be auto-filled, as I say, with your normal retirement date or your normal pension date. For Mr. Demo, it's 31st of the 12th, 2031. So this is what he's going to get. If he clicks calculate, it's going to tell him the annual pension that he will get at that date, so what he's entitled to at that date. If Mr. Demo wants to know, right, if I were to go a wee bit early, so rather than waiting until 2031, I know I really want to retire in 2028, okay? So if he put in 31st of the 12th, 2028 there, his care pay is already, so his pensionable pay there is already auto-filled, depending on the most recent care pay figure we have from your employer. He is going to click calculate there, and then depending on that date and the care pay that's listed there, it's going to calculate that. Now, if he puts in 2028 there, that's him going quite a few years early. So he would expect to see some reductions to his pension, to his annual pension figure. So he will see basically, if I want to go a wee bit early and I know reductions are going to be applied, how much can I reasonably expect to get if I go at that earlier date? Okay, so the voluntary retirement calculator is probably our most used on the MyNILGOSC Pension Online server. We would recommend trying to run a few quotes for yourself just out of interest to see what you could expect to get. Some of you, if you've joined very, very recently, when you log into this the service and you go to this voluntary retirement calculator, you might notice that you just have zeros here. That'll be because we probably haven't received any pay figure from your employer just yet. This is because you know, if your employer is already doing their monthly returns or their weekly returns via iConnect, the iConnect service, I'll not go into too much detail about that. If they're on iConnect, basically, we will be getting monthly or weekly or fortnightly information from them on your pay and your contributions. If your employer is not on iConnect yet, we'll only be getting annual figures from your employer about you. So if you've only joined in the last 2 or 3 months and your employer is not on iConnect yet, then it means that you'll not have any figures in there until after we do our pension benefit statements or annual benefit statements for this year. So after about April, May time, Ruth, is when you'd expect to see figures automatically being populated in there. Okay, so just note that. Just don't be afraid if you log in and you notice that you don't have any figures on that. Okay. So that's a voluntary retirement calculator. Again, very handy if you're trying to kind of project to a retirement date that you have in mind. Okay. We mentioned the redundancy efficiency retirement calculator. I'll not go into too much detail about that. It's just, as Ruth said, if you're 55 or over and you are made redundant, then your pension benefits are paid out to you without any reductions. And again, you can run some calculations for yourself there, put in your details, hit calculate, and you can run as many quotes as you want, which is one of the things to mention as well. There is no limit to the amount of quotes that you run online for yourself, okay, whether it's voluntary retirement or redundancy or any of these calculators. So it is a good way, rather than, again, if you're not registered with MyNILGOSC Pension Online and you don't have an account on it, the only other way that you can get quotes for your projected retirement date from us would be picking up the phone and asking us for one, really. And then even then it'll be about 2 weeks until we can write out to you with your quote. We can only usually give you about 2 options in each paper-based quote for 2 different dates, say, or a bit of a lump sum and a reduced annual pension, things like that. So whereas online on this service, you can run as many quotes for yourself instantly as you want with as many dates as you want to put in. Okay. That's the deferred benefits one. I'll not go into that just because it won't really be applicable for many of you. In terms of your death in service calculator, again, that's just for estimating the benefits that will be payable if you die in service. So Ruth talked about kind of death in service and the death grant and survivors benefits that'll be payable in the event of your death. Again, go into that, have a wee look at it. But as I say, I'm not going to spend much time going into it because the voluntary retirement is where you're going to spend most of your time in terms of the calculators. Going back to pension benefits screen, so we looked at the benefit calculators there. If you do have any, Ruth had mentioned about additional benefits, so boosting your pension, any details about your AVCs, so additional voluntary contributions, any transfer details and additional service is going to be housed within there. So any information on that is going to be in this screen here. Okay. In terms of your latest pension value, you can go on to that. Again, some of you might not have that if you've joined very recently and your employer hasn't submitted any pay details for you yet. But if they have, your latest pension value is going to be within this tile here. It's going to show you your current annual pension value. For Mr. Demo, it's 5,000 odd. It's going to show you any lump sum, any automatic lump sum you're entitled to. And of course, we know Mr. Demo isn't entitled to one, which is why his is 0 there. It's going to show you how that figure is basically built up. Mr. Demo has care section of the scheme benefits, which is 3,200 odd. And he also has final salary benefits because he joined back in 2011. He has, between 2011 and 1st of April 2015, he has some final salary scheme benefits built up too. So that plus that is going to give us that current annual pension value. Okay. So a bit more information about your pension there. In terms of your care account history, again, for some of you, you might not see anything in here yet, but whenever we do get information through from your employer on your latest pensionable pay, you'll see it here. So your care pension value at the moment is up here. Your latest pensionable pay is a figure is going to be there, and the date it's updated is going to be listed there as well. Whenever you've built up a bit of scheme membership over the years, you will then start seeing a few basically care account history listings down here. Mr. Demo has quite a few because he has been in the care scheme since it started in 2015, right up to the latest year end, which was 31st of the 3rd, 2023. Each year you can see a breakdown of his pension values per tax year, so how much he is banking basically each scheme year into his pension. Okay, for more information for each year, you can click select there and it will open up a bit more information on each year. All right, but as I say, for some of you that might not be that useful for you just yet until we get information through from your employer on your pay. Annual allowance, again, that won't really be too applicable for you just yet. So I will skip over that one. Back to the home page for Mr. Demo. One thing we would ask you to look at is your expression of wish details. Okay, this is where you nominate your beneficiaries for any lump sum death benefit from NILGOSC and any death benefits that you may have from any AVC arrangement with Prudential, okay, or Equitable Life. So when you look down here, there are separate sections or different sections for different types of beneficiaries. So up the top, this beneficiary section is only for spouses or civil partners. So in the name here, so Mr. Demo has his husband listed. He has the date of birth of his husband. He has the proportion of his death benefits that he wants to assign to his husband, which is 50%. He has the date of the marriage/civil partnership in there. And he has the contact details, of course, for the demo account. It's just random ones for his husband. Okay. If you make any mistakes or you want to change your spouse or civil partner beneficiaries details, you can edit those in there, or you can completely clear the entry there. Going down, Mr. Demo also has one child. He has a daughter, and he wants the other 50% of his death benefits to go to his daughter then in the event of his death. So he has split them evenly, as you can see there, a proportion of 50 and 50 to give us 100% altogether. He wants an even split between his husband and his daughter. He's put in his daughter's date of birth there, the proportion, as I say, and the contact details and the reason for nomination. Ruth, does the reason for a nomination definitely need to go in there, or is it enough to just...
That's fine. What we mean by reason is whether it's a partner or a spouse or a child, just so as we know who it is we're talking to whenever we're contacting them trying to pay the death grant.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Ruth. And as you notice here, you only has the one child beneficiary. If you have more than one child that you want to assign some death benefits to, or a percentage of it, you can just click the plus sign there and you can add another child on. Okay. Same if you want to add a third one on there. All right. Just remember, for the proportion, it needs to all together add up to 100%. Okay. And there are no decimal points allowed on the system. It just won't accept decimal points. So just bear that in mind if you're splitting it, especially into 3, say, and you want everyone to get an even split. Unfortunately, that's not really going to be possible on the system. So you need to think about how to divvy up that those proportions to all reach together 100% of your death benefits. Okay. Any other beneficiaries go down here. So as I say, that's just for spouse or civil partner. This is for just children, just child beneficiaries. And then down the bottom here, other beneficiaries. So other beneficiaries can include anything from friends, other family members, charities. If you want to leave death benefits to your charity, to a charity that you are very passionate about, you can put them in there as well. Okay, so just clicking the plus sign there and putting the name and the details in there. All right, that's where a reason for nomination I think would be quite important there, just so we know who this person is and what charity they're from, if it is a charity. All right, and then after that, if you update your beneficiary details, you're just clicking submit, and that will log your nomination details with us, so we know in the event of your death who you would like your death benefits to be paid to. Worth noting that these benefits are basically at NILGOSC's discretion, which means that it'll not form any part of your estate whenever you die, whenever you pass away. We will try our best to make sure they go to whoever you have nominated, but it's important to make sure this information is kept as up to date as possible for that reason, because we want to make sure that they go to the people that you really want them to go to, or the places you want them to go to whenever you pass away. We would recommend, whenever you come to the point where you receive your first annual benefit statement from us, we would recommend that you log on to my NILGOSC Pension Online and you go on to this page, and even if everything is still as it should be and you're happy with how it is, just click submit at the bottom. The reason I say that is because every time you click submit there, it'll basically date stamp this page, and it means that even if your beneficiaries have never changed, okay, and then you pass away and your death benefits are payable to whoever you've nominated on this page, if you have a very recent date stamp next to it, it just kind of reinforces that those are the people that you wish for your death benefits to be payable to. It just makes it easier for everyone in negotiations to have a very recent date stamp there on this page. Okay, so we just try to recommend at least once per year, go on to here, click submit if you're happy with everything there, and that will just date stamp it for you. Okay. That is the expression of wish details. Coming out of that, your annual benefit statement, whenever you get to the point where you have received your first annual benefit statement, it'll be housed within here. So you can view your recent benefit statements in this section here. And it will be listed here, so it'll give you all the information that you'd get on a paper-based statement, but just on your My NILGOSC Pension Online portal instead. One of the good things about registering for My NILGOSC Pension Online and having your communication preference set to electronic rather than post means that you don't have to really worry about all the paper copies coming through your post every year and possibly losing paper copies and things like that. It saves you all the filing basically, because it's filed for you here, and it means that you can literally go back through all of your annual benefit statements that you have historically with NILGOSC. Okay. In terms of anything else, last thing I want to go through very quickly is just the documents section. So when I click on that, it's going to show you first of all any documents that relating to your pension that we have uploaded for you. This will be things like, for example, I'm trying to think of what we might put up here. Well, I suppose your membership pack. Whenever you first join the scheme, we're going to put up a membership pack onto here, and that'll probably be the only thing you have there at the start whenever you go into your documents. Anything else? Any pension savings statements and anything relating to your AVC, your additional voluntary contributions if you have signed up for AVCs, if you're paying into an AVC. You will see them listed here. Of course, Mr. Demo is a demo account, so we just have lots of test files here. If, say, for example, this is one of your files or one of your documents, you're just clicking on the link there and that will open it up for you, and it's a PDF that it opens up. Okay. Back into the documents section, you can also use the document upload function here, and this is where My NILGOSC Pension Online is very useful as well, because it saves you having to send physical documents or copies of documents to us in the post. It means that you can just upload them directly to here. So for example, if you want to send us a copy of your marriage certificate or your birth certificate to have those on file with us, you can take a picture on your phone of those, try to make it as clear a picture as possible, of course, but you can take a picture on your phone and just upload it straight away when you're logged into My NILGOSC Pension Online. So select files to upload. That will upload the wee box to your folder to look for the file, and then whenever you have that there, you're clicking upload, and that will just upload it directly to us, and we will of course check it for you and make sure we don't have any questions on it. But it's a very, very easy facility for getting documents through to us, and it saves you from having to, as I say, send any original documents or even copies of them. Okay, so it's a very easy way to do it. One of the things, last thing I'll mention is LGS 8 and LGS 10 forms. So Ruth would have mentioned these because a lot of you are new joiners. The LGS 8 form, which is the transfer request form, and the LGS 10 form, which is the public service pension history form. They are two ones that Ruth would have mentioned. It would be good for you to look at as soon as possible, especially the LGS 8 form, because there is a time limit on that. If you are looking for those and you don't want to go onto our website and go through that way, you can log on to my NILGOSC Pension Online, go into your documents area, and if you click on Scheme Documents and Forms, you'll see that it opens up our NILGOSC website under Member Resources already, so you'll already be in the right section. You're looking down here, Forms for Members. When you click on that, you're just scrolling down. These are all the different forms that you can put through to us. So change in circumstances form. So if you have any kind of change to your personal circumstances, you can click into that and get your LGS 24 form, fill it in. All of our forms are fillable on a PDF as well, so you don't have to worry about the faff of printing out and copying and sending them through to us. So you can literally just open your LGS 24 form, fill it in, save it, and then go on to your document upload facility on my NILGOSC Pension Online and get it through to us straight away. Scrolling down here, LGS 8 is the first one that Ruth mentioned there. So as I say, that's the transfer quotation request form. When you open that, as Ruth would have mentioned as well, there is a limited time to fill this in and get it through to us. This is basically if you want to transfer any of your previous pension benefits built up in another scheme into NILGOSC scheme. You have to request the transfer within the first year of scheme membership from us. So you have the first year to do that, and then we have to basically get through to your old pension scheme and ask them for quotes and things like that. So try to get your LGS 8 if you have previous pension scheme membership that you want to move to NILGOSC. Try to get your LGS 8 completed and uploaded or sent through to us as soon as possible. The LGS 10 is the last form just to look at with you, is the public service pension history form. Again, you may be eligible for some protections in the scheme. And there's the 2 bullet points there that kind of talk about whether you have eligibility or not. Always worth filling in this form and just sending it through to us. And if you do have eligibility or any protections, then we will let you know and we will make sure that they are taken into account. So just filling in that form there, any previous public service pension history in there, signature, date, and again, if you are registered my NILGOSC Pension Online, save it to your computer and then just upload it via the documents upload facility there. All right. But yes, last thing is just please, if you haven't registered already, please do look at registering. Of course, as I say, you can set your communication preference to post if you really don't want to be getting anything via my NILGOSC Pension Online. You can, just note, you can have your my NILGOSC Pension Online set up and an account set up on it and still have your communication preference set to post. It's not one or the other all the time. You can still use the online facility, but get your communications via post as well, okay? If you don't want to use my NILGOSC Pension Online at all, you do need to contact us directly to change your communication preference to post so that you receive hard copies. Otherwise, all of your information and documents will be just automatically uploaded to my NILGOSC Pension Online. All right. Ruth, I think that's me.
Thank you, Leah. I'll just get back to my presentation, if you bear with me. There was a couple of questions that got asked there, so I will come back to them in a moment. But for now, there's just a couple of slides I want to go through first, and that should be us back to the presentation. So this next slide is looking at how much money you're going to need in retirement. The government has put a lot of thought into this. They've actually published this information under retirementlivingstandards.org.uk. You can follow that link if you want to go and read up more about each of these different rule of thumb sort of goalposts, if you like. They've basically talked to an awful lot of people that were coming up to retirement and also a lot of people that are currently retired. They've been looking at the different sort of levels of income that's coming in and the money that's going out, and they've come up with these sort of benchmarks that you might want to use as a guide to knowing how much you want to have saved for in retirement. For example, if we look at the top row, for the minimal amount of pension income that you're going to be wanting to have saved up, this is going to cover all your basic needs with some limited left left over for fun. They're saying that a single person wants to make sure that they have around about £12,800 of annual pension coming in. If you're a married couple, or if there's two of you, they recommend that between the both of you that you have a total pension income coming of 19,900. Then they've broken it down for a moderate lifestyle where you've got a bit more financial security and you've got a bit more flexibility. Maybe you're getting a holiday in every now and again. They're recommending you aim to have an income of around about 23,000 for a single person, or 34. But again, these are just benchmarks, and obviously it's going to depend on your own circumstances, the own lifestyle that you're going to want to live when you're in retirement. This is just a goal, something that you can think about. It also, these figures assume that you have no housing costs. So if you are going to have housing costs in retirement as well, you'll need to factor that in for your retirement planning. And at this point, I say don't panic. It's not just your NILGOSC pension that is going to cover you. Also, you'll have your state pension. Now, to qualify for the full state pension, you have to have 35 years worth of national insurance contributions. Currently, the full state pension is sitting at around about £10,600. I think that's increasing this year by 8.5% thanks to the triple lock. And it's meaning then from next year, the full state pension is going to be sitting at around about £11,500. But to qualify for that, you're going to have 35 years national insurance contributions. If you have any gaps, there are certain gaps where you will be automatically credited for those years. But if you do think that you might have gaps, there may be an opportunity for you to pay to cover those gaps to make sure you get the full state pension. In your slides here, there's a link to the government website where you can go and find out how many years national insurance contributions you have. But I would actually like to update that. I have recently downloaded the HMRC app and it is brilliant. It's so much better. See, rather than trying to log on and request this information, sometimes it takes a couple of weeks before they get it back to you. If you have your government gateway ID, you can log on to the app and all the information is right there in front of you. It told me when I logged on, it told me that I will be entitled to the full state pension by the time comes that I do retire, although I do have a little bit of a gap, but I don't need to cover that gap because in the future, if I continue working on, it means that I'll have my full 35 years. Essentially what I'm saying is it's tailored to you. So I would recommend downloading the HMRC app and logging on to check your own state benefits and your own quotation. Payment of the state pension is not automatic, although it is the government that sets our state pension age and increases our state pension age. It's not automatic. You still need to complete a form and get that filled in for your state pension to kick in. You can choose to defer your state pension if you wish. I think you would want to do this. Well, I think the only circumstances that you may want to do this is for tax purposes. But just to let you know, if you do defer it, it is increased by 1% for every 9 weeks, which works out as a 5.8% increase for every year it is deferred. And that takes me on to this slide, which shows you things that you can do now. First and foremost, you have the option on the government's website whereby you can trace lost pensions. Maybe you worked for somebody a number of years ago and you can't remember if you paid in, or maybe you got a refund and you're not sure. If you want to trace any of those lost pensions, the government have a free service that they will do that for you. There's plenty of hits. If you do a Google search, that will come up that will do it for you, but please do be mindful if you're clicking on any links from Google searches, especially the top ones, they are sponsored, meaning some company has paid for you to see their advert first. Just be mindful if that's the case and they're charging you, perhaps there's a fee to trace your lost pensions. Why would you pay somebody when the government will do it for you for free? So the link's there for the government's tracing service. Also requesting your state pension quote, or log on to the HMRC app and you can find out how much your state pension is going to be. When it comes to keeping track of your spending, you can either do that now or with a view for retirement. The government has a branch of pension MoneyHelper, which can provide you with any assistance that you may need when it comes to budgeting. They do have a budget planner that you can use either for your circumstances now with the money that you've got coming in now, or as I say, you can base it on the budget for your future retirement planning. They also have a midlife MOT that I would really recommend everybody goes on and has a wee play with that. They do recommend that you are 45 years or older to do your midlife MOT, but if you're not a few, if you're within a few years, you can tick the box and run through that. It breaks down all the money that's coming in and going out, and it works out what you should be prioritising, and it also highlights any areas that maybe you haven't thought about that maybe now is the time that you should. So I would recommend everybody gets on and does that midlife MOT. But also, now that you've had the wee demonstration of how to use your online account, we do recommend that you get on there, you complete your expression of wish details, so as we know in the event of your death who we want to pay that death grant to. But this is also where you get to put in your own retirement planning options. This is where you get to see for your own circumstances, if I retire at 60, what is my income going to be? What conversion options do I have? Will I have to think about contributing extra or things like that? And of course, there's a wee link there that takes you to MoneyHelper. They have a branch called PensionWise. They can offer you some guidance whenever it comes to retirement planning. They can't give you any figures for your NILGOSC pension, but they can certainly talk in general terms if you have any queries there. The last thing I wanted to bring to your attention was just to highlight pension scams. The government is working really hard in the past few years trying to crack down on pension scams. Unfortunately, there are still some unscrupulous companies out there that would love to get their hands on your final salary and career average pensions. So there are some warning signs to watch out for. First and foremost, contact out of the blue is illegal. So if you've got a text message or an email or a phone call that you haven't requested, that's illegal, and just do not interact with them. You should also report that company to the Information Commissioner's office as well. But if you've got somebody that's approached you or that's talking to you and they're guaranteeing high returns on investments, nobody in this world can guarantee high returns. So if somebody's promising you that, do note that that's probably an alarm bell. Similarly, if they're saying you can access any of your pension before age 55, that's not possible. HMRC only is happy to give you your tax relief if it is for a bona fide retirement. So if anybody's allowing you to access your pension before 55, that is an alarm bell. Similarly, if there's time pressure, if they're asking you to make decisions in a hurry, no reputable company is going to do that. So just please do be mindful. And the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that's taken me to the end of my slides this afternoon. Thank you very much for your attention today. I know pensions isn't the most exciting topic to sit through, so thank you for your time. If you are wanting some more information, there's some details there on this slide. Obviously, that you've got our website. There's a plethora of information on our website. But if you do have a specific query, NILGOSC staff aren't qualified or regulated to give financial advice, but we can give you information. If you'd like to drop us an email, if you send that through to info@nilgosc.org.uk, the reception team will be able to forward that on to the relevant section. If, however, you want that query to come to me, just start your email with "Hi Ruth" or "Hi Leah," and the receptionist will know to forward it through to us. Similarly, you can give us a phone at any time. You can also come in and see us if you want to come in and talk to us about your retirement benefits. But we do just ask that you give us a phone first, so as we can make sure there's an interview room available for you. But other than that, this is the point in time where I'm going to say, does anybody have any questions? There were a couple that came in. I saw in the chat, there was one, somebody had asked what was the advice with reference to transferring in benefits. As I say, NILGOSC staff can't give you advice. We can't tell you what is the best thing to do. But when it comes to transferring, what we would always say is get the quotation, find out what your benefits would be worth if you did transfer them into us, and weigh them up against the benefits that you would have if you kept them separately. Obviously, if you transfer the benefits in, it means that if your employer makes you redundant, all your pension will be paid out, including that transfer in, without reductions. But you've only got that 12-month time limit, and that's really for your own protection. If you were to transfer in any later than that, you'll be another year older, so it would buy you less in the scheme. Also, it may be that your previous pension is payable from age 60, whereas if you transfer that to NILGOSC, it won't be payable until you retire, which is going to be linked to your state pension age. So in some circumstances, it's not in your best interest to transfer, but we say get the quotation and find out what it would be worth. Then you can weigh the two of them up together and find out what would be most beneficial in your own circumstances. Does anybody else have any other questions that they would like to ask? You can unmute yourself.
Can I just double check, what was the age that, I know you mentioned it, but what was the age again where you could apply for a lump sum?
Well, the earliest you can claim your pension benefits is 55, which is increasing 55 to 57 from April 2028. But please do be mindful that you have to retire to get your benefits. You can't just elect for a lump sum because you're getting all your tax relief. The taxman needs to know that it's for a bona fide retirement. So if you're looking, this is important as well, maybe if you're looking to pay anything extra into the scheme, maybe you're looking at AVCs. If you're looking something sensible to do with your money now, with an opportunity of dipping into that cash at some point before you retire, then putting your money into a pension scheme is not for you, because once you put it into the pension scheme, you're only going to get the ability to access that from when you retire. So that's just something to be mindful of. There are other tax efficient saving vehicles that you may wish to consider instead of saving into your pension pot.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And one last question, sorry. I think it was just because it was missed off the chat. I'm only 18 months into this scheme, but I appreciate I'm over the year, so I can't transfer my previous pensions. I think you've just answered it because you said, you can't really give out advice. However, is there somewhere where that you would recommend, or not you personally, but that they recommend to do with the previous pensions, or is that something just I would need to sort myself?
That's something you'd need to sort yourself. Depending on the reason, if you joined us and just didn't fill in your form, you've only got 12 months. But if there's been some sort of a delay, if we've only given you your new member pack recently, there are circumstances like that, sort of like that you can request that we apply our discretion to waive that 12-month limit, but there has to be a valid reason for it, whether it's an employer error or an admin error on our behalf. But if that's the case, do investigate that with us.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Joy, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question?
Yeah, I had just noticed I was following along on mine in the background as you were talking. My salary is very wrong. So how often is that updated, or how do I get that corrected?
Do you mind if I ask you who your employer is?
It's the Education Authority.
Okay, this can sometimes happen, especially if you're a term time employee, or maybe if you're in your first year of joining. With the Education Authority, they give us information annually. So yours may be wrong or skewed or giving you incorrect figures up until I think it's going to be May time is when you want to check back, because the Education Authority will give us your pay details for the first year at the end of March, but they don't get it through to us until the end of April. Then we have to do some validation checks. So it's later into May before you'll see your calculator giving you the right default answer. If you know what your pay is, you can go in and change your pay, and then you'll get the accurate figures. But yes, you'll have to sit tight until around about May time.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question?
Yeah, just a very quick one. Let's just double check. And when you're running the voluntary retirement calculator, the annual pension figure you get, that's pre-tax, isn't it?
It is pre-tax. Whenever it comes to your pension, you will pay tax on any pension earnings that you have. Everybody will have their own personal allowance. So depending on how much other income you're getting, but yes, we will automatically take 20. Yeah.
No, that's grand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else want to ask me any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question here, sorry. In terms of transferring over via the LGS 8 form, if
Yes.
you've got two previous pension schemes or pension pots previously, is it a case of sending it through as two separate forms?
Yes, I think there may be space for a couple on the one form, but if you run out of space or if there's only room for one, yes, just fill in another form. Yep.
Brilliant, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, could I just ask a question? When it comes to, I don't actually have a husband to leave the money to, so
Yes.
with the children, is there a certain age limit for that, for giving the money to them?
There are two elements that you need to be mindful of. The first one's the death grant, and that is where we pay a lump sum in the event of your death. That's that's the one where you can choose who you want to receive that. So if you want to leave that to your children, fill in that form and that will take account of the death grant. But over and above the death grant, there may be survivors' pensions payable if you leave behind an eligible survivor at the point in time that you die. So for example, if you have children that are under the age of 18 at the point in time that you die, we will pay them a children's pension. That will continue up until age 18 or age 23 if they remain in full-time education, or if there's mental or physical impairment that means they're financially dependent on you. That's payable for the duration of that impairment. But yes, if they're over 18 or they're over 23 at the point in time you die, then they won't have any children's pension. With a survivor's pension, there's only a survivor's pension payable if you leave an eligible survivor when you die, whereas the death grant will get paid regardless of what age they are. So do fill in your expression of wish so as we know who to pay the death grant to.
Right, so the death grant is for when I die, obviously, the money from my pension goes, they get a pension. What's the survivor's pension then? So I'm not sure what that.
The death grant is a one-off payment. It's a tax-free lump sum that is paid out because you've died. The survivor's pension is in addition to that one-off payment where if they're eligible, they will receive a pension for the duration of eligibility. So they're two slightly different ones. You can nominate for the death grant, but you can't let us know the circumstances for the survivor's pension. When you die, we will make contact at that point and we'll establish if there are survivors, what pensions then get paid.
Right, so I just need to fill in the death one. And it's only up to 23 years old then that the child can get the child pension then?
Yes, if they stay in full-time education, otherwise it'll stop at age 18.
Okay, and the acceleration key, you need to have that every time you go into your site? No? No,
you only need the activation key for the first time that you're logging on.
Oh, that's grand. Okay, thank you so much for everything.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Martin, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question?
I'm currently going through a transfer from a previous pension provider, and I'm a bit late. It's coming up. My 1 year will be due at the end of January, but it has progressed at pace, and I have received an email to say that the transfer will happen to the nominated account from my previous pension provider. Can I assume that nominated account is NILGOSC and that's almost the process completed?
It sounds like it. Once we get the payment, once that hits our account, we will do the final calculation and update your account. We'll then send you a letter to let you know how much has been credited then to your account.
Okay, so I've got those totals. So am I best to ring NILGOSC to confirm this, or can I make an assumption here, which is always risky? I
wouldn't make an assumption. If you want to give me a call tomorrow morning, I can check that on your account tomorrow.
Many thanks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Who's next? Bridewell Reception, is that?
Yeah, that's me. I'm Catherine, but I think I have pensions from previous jobs, but I'm not entirely sure of if I use that app or that link on the government website to find the pension pots, do I need to go in and figure out how much I have and register with them, or do I just put the names of the pensions on it and then give it to you guys to do?
If you're still in your first year of joining, as long as you get their names, we'll deal with the rest. You just give us the names of the pension provider and we'll find the rest out on your behalf.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Who's there? Is that Kira? Do you want to unmute yourself and ask me something?
See the way you recorded this webinar. Is there any way of seeing that? Do you know the bit that you filmed as we went through the step by steps?
I hope to publish the recording. However, we need to be able to meet legislative requirements for accessibility, and I don't know if we've the resource available in the organisation currently to be able to do that. I'm hopeful that we do, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to publish the recording. And if that's the case, I'll email everyone who's registered, and I'll give you a link to the recording. So yes, if it is published, I'll send you an email.
And then do you see the way that you've got another one of these on Friday? Is this the same one, or is that a different?
They will cover mainly the same things, but we'll go into a bit more detail, and we'll cover some of the older aspects of the scheme for people who have been with us longer than 2015. But so yes, if you've been to this one, you don't need to go to the next one.
That's okay then. Thank you.
All right. Sorry,
Okay.
Carolyn, I think I missed you there. Carolyn, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question?
Hi, I have worked for the Education Board from 1984. In that time, they have changed my pension scheme 3 times.
Okay.
Now, I'm hoping to retire pretty soon. Will that be taken in, the 3 different schemes that they have had me in over the years? Will that be calculated as one pension pot?
Are all the schemes the NILGOSC scheme?
Yes.
Then we will, it depends on the employment. We may have 3 separate pension pots for you, in which case we'll write out to you 3 times with your retirement options, or it may be that they're all under the one record, in which case they'll just be the one. I can check that out for you. If you want to give me a wee phone call tomorrow morning, I can look into that for you, if that would be of any help.
That's brilliant.
All right, thank you
very much. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else with any more questions? I may have missed some in the chat. I will review that. And if I did miss any questions that came through, I'll try to send you an email. Other than that, you have our contact details. If you go away, have a wee play on your online calculator. If it turns out you've got some questions that maybe didn't come to you now, or that crop up at any point, you can get in touch and we'll be happy to help. Other than that, I would just like to say thank you. There is a QR code if anybody would like to use that to provide some feedback. Alternatively, there'll be a link in the email that I sent you with a copy of the slides that got sent through this morning. If anybody would like to give us any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. If there's anything that you would like to see that we haven't covered, or maybe something that you'd like to see differently, please do let us know. But other than that, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.